Good morning, class. Well, today is our first day of starting to delve into Discover Canada, the study guide. And it's exciting why we're doing it because we're going to prepare you to write the citizenship test, which means we'll have a time to celebrate after you've been sworn in and have your citizenship papers. So I am delighted to be able to share this experience with you, share information about the country I call home. And yesterday when I passed out the guides, I'm assuming and hoping that you took them home and just glanced through them. There was no particular reading assignment. But as I was preparing your lesson, as a Canadian who's lived here all my life, it was like, oh, I didn't know that. So we're going to learn together about this fabulous country we call Canada. So thank you for letting me be part of your experience. And we have 8 weeks to move through the guide, and I don't want you to feel the least bit intimidated. Does anybody have any questions before we start? Yes, it is important that we cover all the content because this content is what will be part of the citizenship test. And in today's class, I'm actually going to show you just a short video. It's about 5 minutes that will explain the test and the process so you'll understand that. And if you have questions after the video, of course, we'll talk about those. But before we get started, do you remember yesterday when we all met for the first time after the summer vacation? We just sort of talked about the field trip that we went on, and the field trip happened to have been in Ottawa. And it was beautiful weather. Remember how nice it was? Yes. And who would have thought that we would be doing this together? You could have gotten a different teacher, but it happened to be me, and we got to go on that field trip together, so I share those memories with you too. And yesterday we talked about the trip and looked at some pictures, and here you'll see are some of the pictures that I've posted. And these particular pictures I chose because they relate directly to what we're going to be reading about today. And you'll recall we went to the Parliament building, and this is the center block, and beautiful Peace Tower, and atop of that Peace Tower is our beautiful Canadian flag. It's really not a very old flag. Our country is 150 years old, and this flag actually was designed and adopted as our national flag in 1965. So I remember as a 10-year-old child learning to draw this flag, and when it was adopted, we were all so excited and proud. So it's really not all that old of a flag, but it flies proudly. When we were in the Parliament buildings, you got to visit 2 key rooms that will relate to Canada's governing process and the bodies that prepare and adopt our laws. And so the first place that you would have been as we walked down the main hall was what we call the House of Commons. And the House of Commons are what we call members of Parliament. They're elected by Canadian citizens. The elections are held about every 4 to 5 years, and that's where the Prime Minister would also sit. When they've done making their laws, then we have the Chamber of Second Thought, and it's called the Senate Chambers, and it's primarily red, so it kind of helps you to remember. One is green for go, and red is to pause and reflect, would be my best suggestion for you how you can remember those. We also had a chance to go out front, and I love this picture. Do you remember we all gathered and had a group picture? So Paul, was there any particular part of our visit that you really enjoyed and stands out for you? Oh yeah, it was going up the Peace Tower because it's pretty tall and we get to see all above. the city that day. We were able to go up the elevator, and also there was the Book of Remembrance there, as you'll recall. And what do you remember about that Book of Remembrance that's up in the Peace Tower? Heather? Yes, there is someone who stands guard there, and every day the Book of Remembrance page is turned. Every day. And so Canadians can go and visit, and they may see someone that was in their family who served in one of our wars, and their name will be there. That book is also online so that you can actually go and look up a name and go to a particular page directly instead of hoping the page is turned up in the Peace Tower. But yes, that was a really great highlight, wasn't it? Was there anything else that anyone really enjoyed? Yes. Pat, that's right. Parliament Hill, as we call it, is actually on a hill overlooking the Ottawa River. But there's also a canal system, which is in this picture, and we're looking at the back side of the Parliament buildings. So lots of good memories, and you all would have your own particular memories, but certainly it was a great opportunity to go visit that, and then it will certainly help us. And you'll see some of those pictures, or a different version, but similar pictures will be throughout the guide. And so today we're going to read pages 28, 29, and 33. And on your desks, you each have been given a laminated reading sheet. I've already set them up in groups, so there's 4 groups. There's 2 in each group. So each group has their set of cards, and I'm going to ask that you're going to read that. And you can look it up in your guide if you want, but we just I feel it's easier if you just have it particularly in nice big bold print. So as you're reading, there are going to be words that you may or may not be familiar with. And we have this word list, and as you're reading, I'm going to project it up on the wall, and you'll be able to look in your readings to see if any of these words are here. And there are various words that relate to government or our relationship with other parts of government. So this will appear, some of these words will appear in your reading section. And what I want you to do is you're going to highlight the words that appear on this list and in your reading section, because then you're going to use those words. Make sure when you, after you're done reading, you're going to do a summary of what you read and share it with your peers. And so those words need to be used. So just to give you an idea, I'm going to share with you on page 14 of your guide just a quick paragraph, and it's about Canada's history and our Aboriginal peoples. When Europeans explored Canada, they found all regions occupied by native peoples they called Indians, because the first explorers thought they had reached the East Indies. The native people lived off the land, some by hunting and gathering, others by raising crops. The Huron-Wendat of the Great Lakes region, like the Cree and Dene of the Northwest, were hunter-gatherers. So, in that paragraph, there were a number of words that appear on the list that I created. And what we did was we take your card, and for example, Aboriginal peoples appeared on this list, so I would go in this reading part and highlight Aboriginal, as I would Iroquois. So the Iroquois peoples, theirs is highlighted. Anybody have any questions? Right. So in the word list, for example, is the word legislature. Now, your reading may have a derivative of that, which is legislative. I don't want you to highlight legislative. I only want you to highlight exactly as it appears on the list, which is legislature. Okay? So while you're reading, I'm going to circulate around the room. When you're done reading with your partner, double check the word list against your reading to make sure you've highlighted the ones that are on the word list. Then what you're going to do is prepare a summary to present to your peers. Now that summary can be written if you choose, and you can read it. You can do a little bit of a skit and perform that. Or you could go to the Resource Center. There are newspapers and magazines. There are some craft materials. You can prepare a poster. It's up to you how you choose to relay this to the rest of your class members. So I'll circulate around the room as you start to read, and then we'll move on and start to prepare the summary. If anyone has any questions, please just raise your hand and we'll go from there.